the Fan3Cast, dishing out the hottest NASCAR news and views while celebrating the Three's historic comeback. Here are your hosts, Michael Metzger and Jason Schultz.
From the twists and turns of the Sonoma Raceway back to the Fan3Cast, Jason and I are here to recap what happened this weekend with the Toyota Save Mart 350 and then look ahead to the Quaker State 400. So Jason, looking at the Toyota Save Mart 350, we have a very peculiar winner in Carl Edwards. That it's peculiar because he's rumored to be leaving Roush Fenway Racing, but he was all smiles and hugs with Jack Roush after the win. What could we take away from at least that public image, or the idea that, hey, Edwards is winning, that's 2 races that he's won this year, could they be on the upswing?
I don't think Edwards or the 99 team are going to let his future really dictate how they do this season. I think they're just fully concentrating on going after a championship this season because they've been so close together for so many years. I think they're just putting all their focus into that, and by Edwards not really coming out to the media what he's actually doing next season, I think that allows the team to concentrate a little more because they know that they're not really sure. Maybe he's not telling them what he's doing next season. He's just team's all focused on right now and the next race and the next week. And so I think that's helping him right now, and it definitely was a factor in how they got the victory lane because they definitely were not distracted on Sunday.
Yeah, it seems all but inevitable that he is leaving as rumors persist that Joe Gibbs Racing is hiring a bunch of crew members for next year for the addition of a new team. I gotta ask you your opinion. I'll chime in after you get this in. When it comes to Carl Edwards, I saw this on Twitter as a question. Do you feel that he's fake or genuine in how he interacts with people or just comes off in general?
That's tough. I think he's just genuine. I think he just seems like a really nice guy. He's just all for everyone. He can be nice. He doesn't really not one of those drivers that will just like brush off their fans. He likes to interact with them and talk to them. And when he does his autograph sessions, he doesn't even sit down. He just stands up and likes to interact with the fans. So I think he's for real. I think it's just the way he is. And he wasn't, the most successful racer growing up here in Legends racing until later, and I think probably his 20s. So I think he's just really grateful for everything, and he just takes it all with a smile.
See, I'm torn on that question because I feel that fairly or unfairly, there's a stigma that he's just faking his actions. And granted, a lot of it's based in the past. I gotta say, like that weird interaction that he had with Matt Kenseth where he threw a fake punch, it made no sense. And then his whole interaction with Brad Keselowski, granted that's at least 3 or 4 years ago, so he's maybe moved on and learned from those situations. And then you hear stories about this past weekend, he won on Sunday, then actually flew all the way out to New York, our neck of the woods, to attend the funeral of his PR director's father. So I think with the people around him, he's very genuine and caring. It's just, it's hard to say what he's projecting to the media when he's interacting with them because he might have been chastised and told that he couldn't do certain things, and now he's got to kind of put on a show, kind of like what Clint Boyer does at times when he gets reined in, it seems.
Yeah, I know. It's probably tough for him to be asked about what his plans are each week, and I know it's probably bothering him. So if maybe he freaks out at one point, saying like that, he's not going to want to talk about that anymore. I think it's just because the media is just so going after him every single week. It probably gets tiring to be asked the same question and not be able to answer it. But I would assume that, I think it was September he said, when he actually could talk about it, if anything is to talk about. But I think that's like soft deadline. I bet if any news comes out, it'll come out pretty soon because it's just one of the biggest stories out there right now.
Well, it was pretty interesting. I don't know if you took a look at the transcripts after this weekend's race, but there weren't any hard questions from the media. Nobody really pressed him towards what his plans were, or they were pretty easy softball questions that he was able to knock back to the media members by being non-committal in his responses, and they took that and moved on. So maybe they got kind of an understanding going on right now.
I bet that's what Edwards hopes. And one thing I did notice at the end of his interview on Victory Lane with TNT, he mentioned one road course ringer who's really helped him out on the right and left turns. And his board said it. We're going to talk about some road course ringers, and after their weekend in Sonoma, it's officially told that they are probably dead in the Sprint Cup Series. Shed had a really awful race. He wasn't even competitive at times, and you just see sometimes when they're going through the corners, you can definitely tell that they know what they're doing, and they can maybe cut the corner a little more than their Sprint Cup regular because it's not as experienced on road courses, but they just aren't really, I think, a thing anymore. It's just, they just happen to come out for races, but they're probably not they're not more competitive than anyone else is in the field now.
It's a little disappointing to me because I grew up watching these guys come in for 1 or 2 races a year and really mix it up with the drivers. I go back to Tommy Kendall in the early 90s where he had some great runs, especially the one filling in for Kyle Petty at Sonoma Raceway where he nearly won the race. But yeah, Jason, they are pretty much done for. You're not going to have a fully funded team that's going to toss them into good equipment because with the new rules package with the win and you're basically in as long as you're in the top 30, a driver could pull off a win at Daytona. We'll use the guy that I've been beating up all week as my example of someone that should have been pulled for a ringer, Ryan Truex. Now, granted, he's very deep in the standings, but if he doesn't attempt this race, then he's not eligible for the chase under the new guidelines. But what if he turns around and gets a fluke win at Daytona or something like that? Then they've kind of thrown that away. So it's definitely a different era. You're not going to see anyone getting good equipment anymore if they're a ringer unless it's maybe in the Nationwide Series, and even that's kind of sketchy at this point. But yeah, said he was in the quote-unquote best equipment and he finished 32nd and was a total non-factor when usually these guys can kind of mix it up. So it's safe to say that they're done. And I think a lot of that also has to do with the Sprint Cup drivers as a whole focusing in on road courses and actually making them a priority and working with people like Boris said to get better at it as opposed to just kind of writing off 2 races a year. If it's not road course ringers, there's another facet of road racing that is kind of interesting to watch, and that's using strategy to try to either steal a win or be up front. So we kind of saw that play out with Carl Edwards. He only pitted twice on Sunday and won the race, where you had Jeff Gordon who pitted 3 times and finished second, a close second, but still second nonetheless. And you saw other drivers, and another surprise for me was Marcos Ambrose playing the strategy card over just going out there and trying to race around and get a top finish. So Jason, it's just interesting how at road races they really break it down to I'm going to pit 2 times, and usually they stick to that, or I'm going to try to pit 3 times, get a little faster at points, and versus other racing where you just kind of have to roll with the punches of what you're dealt. You might have a strategy in your head that I'm going to pit at this point, but then a caution comes out and kind of changes that a little bit, and more of your strategies at the end of the race. So it's just another interesting thing about road racing that I think a lot of fans do enjoy, that kind of mental angle to the competition out there.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting when you see drivers like if they go to Michigan and they want to pit maybe like 4 or 5 times in the race and caution comes out late and they pit another time to get fresh tires, but Sonoma, if caution comes out with 5 laps to go, they're not going to pit again. They've already committed to that 2-step or 3-step strategy, so that's definitely interesting. You never really see drivers vary from what they plan pre-race, so I think that's making road course racing some of the most strategic racing out there, and besides it being wild, I think it's often turned into like strategy match now versus not as much strategy is usually used when you go to the ovals or the restrictor plates, because it's just a free-for-all, like you said, in those events. For the, now I can't remember, 3rd or 4th week, I think we had TNT on television, so that means I think they're about half over. Yeah, I think it's halfway through their season, last season with NASCAR, and one thing that came up again is the commercials and how many there are, and they just seem to keep coming and just drives people crazy every single week.
It hasn't been as bad just yet as the KFC circus that usually happens at Kentucky, so we have Kentucky coming up, so yay, we got that to look forward to. But Jason, I don't know about you, I just noticed it seems like a lot of commercials, and again, it could be basically the same of what Fox and ESPN do, but at the same time, there's a lot of promos and just marketing for TNT itself, and granted they had that right, is they're showing the race that they could do self-promotions. It just seems a lot over the top that every commercial lead-in and lead-out seems to be presented by some show on TNT, and it just, for me, it's just getting too much.
Yeah, I definitely see your point, and I think with Fox and ESPN, they do it a little more casually. Like the ESPN will say, well, there's a MLB baseball game on ESPN tomorrow night, and then they'll maybe say some 2 words about the teams that are playing or something, and it seems more natural than Cincy just coming out and saying, well, this new show is coming on, you better watch it. And with Fox, I think they just display graphics for their new shows. Like, if there's a show, they'll just play graphic and on the screen for like 5 seconds, and it's over. So I think TNT's just, forcing this year a little more than they really should.
Yeah, it's one of those, they're trying to take advantage of it while they still have it. Like you said, we're at the halfway mark, only 3 more races with them to go. And what I did notice during the course of the race is it did still seem like they're a little delayed in their reports. Something you had touched on with one of the past races here is it just seems like they're a little behind, and I don't know if that's a instituted 30-second or so delay that maybe they have, make sure nobody swears or anything like that. But I'm trying to think of exactly who it was, but one of the drivers basically spun or came close to spinning out. They're showing it, and then all of a sudden the announcers seem to wake up and be like, oh, and by the way, so-and-so has just spun around.
Yeah, one thing I did notice too, I don't know if this actually happened, but I saw cars spin around maybe before they went to a commercial break, and then they came back and they never really touched on it. Maybe it didn't even happen, but it's just interesting because I think Fox, when maybe they wreck right before they go to commercial, Fox will jump in and say, well, we got a caution now, we'll go to break later, but TNT just probably goes to break even if there's a giant wreck on the track because they have to get the commercials in or something like that.
Yep, exactly. It's almost like set programming that they have their times and they gotta fulfill it, and I don't know. And again, another major complaint I'm going to throw out there is that freaking sprint ad making me think that there's a caution every time it comes up.
Yeah, it makes it seem like the whole race is a caution when most of the time that's not true. And you get all excited, oh, there's a caution there. Reset, and then no, there really isn't one. It's just the yellow sprint banner that everyone loves.
Everyone loves that, and we can shift into everyone loving Hendrick Motorsports because it's a party for them up at the top of our power rankings. I only have the lone non-Hendrick driver in my listing, so I'll go over it real quick. Jimmy Johnson I still have up there, had a solid run at Sonoma. Statistics say that he's still crushing it when it comes to earning points for various things on track that he's doing. Jeff Gordon I have second. Hard to argue, point leader. He finished second, close second to Carl Edwards. I don't know how much Edwards was just slowing up near the end there, but I also had Kevin Harvick up there, again, third. He had a very strong run going before he was involved in an incident and kind of rebounded a little bit. I think he was top 20. Maybe he was right around 24th or something like that, but he got up front. He was leading laps. He was doing what he needed to do, but disappointing finish for him. But he still statistically is having a marvelous season despite where he might be in the points, but it's hard to argue. He's fast every single week.
And like you mentioned, a Hendrick party up in our power rankings, I have all 300 drivers. Jimmy Johnson leads the way because, he's just been great over the last few weeks, continues to put up these consistent runs, and great towards probably the last 20, 25 laps of the race on Sunday. I'm like, he's going to win the race because he's somehow going to get up front. And he was there. I think, was third or second at one point, so he's always so close to victory, and he's just so good at this time of the year. I don't know. I don't think you can put him anywhere else on top of the power rankings. And second, I have Dale Earnhardt Jr., which I'm surprised you haven't mentioned yet because he had such a great performance on Sunday. He is not a road race hero or a great driver. I think, shocked everyone when he came home third. It's just not something I think Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to do. And I have Jeff Gordon third. He's just been consistent, and he's well finished second on Sunday. And he's just, I think, one of the more consistent drivers they have this season, and I think that's going to pay off for him by the time the chase comes.
Coming up this weekend, the aforementioned Quaker State 400 from the Kentucky Speedway. This is going to be the 4th time the Sprint Cup Series has visited Kentucky. Jason, what are your thoughts about the track in the 3 previous years, but just in the idea of, is it kind of a cup-worthy track? I have mixed feelings about it. I think it's good because it offers a little bit variety. It's a little different of a track. It has some unique characteristics with the bumps, but at the same time, I don't know. I guess I haven't totally grown fond of Kentucky being on the schedule just yet at the expense of Atlanta.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and I think I sort of do like it because it's the old surface, the rough surface, and has its own character, and it just creates for some different racing than we will see at Texas. Like, if we put Texas versus Kentucky, which one wants to be on the schedule, I'd go Kentucky, because Kentucky just can produce some more exciting racing, or that's what we like. And ever since I think it came on the schedule, it's just added something, because we've only got a few of those rough and tough tracks left. So I think Kentucky's definitely one everyone likes, because it's so rough and because it can produce just different type of racing we don't usually see. And probably the only reason why it came on the schedule in the first place is Bruce Smith has some money, if you didn't know that. And I think he's the one who really pushed to have it put on the schedule, so I think that's the only reason it ever came on the schedule. So it might still be viewed, like, you can definitely say it's a little bit of a nationwide or truck track, because they were there for so many years together. So I think it just takes a little getting used to really say it's a cup track, because it's only been on there for 3 years, so not everyone's totally used to it yet.
You said rough and tumble. I don't know if you saw this earlier today or not, but the Nationwide Series did testing at Kentucky. The bumps were so bad that Ryan Blaney actually got a bloody nose from it.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. That's wild, and I think it just shows how bumpy and hard the track is to drive, and how physically grueling it's going to be on the drivers, because they really got to tackle the track, and they can't just beat all the other drivers out on the track. They've got to beat the track itself, because it's such a rough one that you've got to really just attack it every single lap.
Now, this would be a great time to be the dentist for Brad Keselowski or Kyle Busch, because they are the only three drivers that will run all three series, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night at the Kentucky Speedway. So I can only imagine how bumpy and discombobulated they're going to be at the conclusion of the Quaker State 400. Do you think either one of them have a shot at completing the sweep? Both of them have won in the Cup Series at Kentucky.
I don't think so. I think it's just too far-fetched, and Kentucky, I don't think, because we've not raced there for a ton of years, so I think the experience is a little lacking. So you see Kyle can do the sweep on Bristol, and he was close to Delaware because he's got so much experience at those tracks, and he doesn't have as much as at Kentucky, so I think it'll be a little difficult. And for Brad, I'm pretty sure still Brad has never won a truck race, so I think he still have to get over that hump before he can even come close to looking at the sweep.
I agree with you. For some reason, Keselowski cannot make it happen in the truck series, and I just feel like that's going to keep being a thorn in his side for the longest time, because it just seems like whenever he does have a good truck, you have Kyle Busch that just beats him. On the other side, Kyle Busch, man, he has had no luck, as you well know, Jason. No luck at all in the Cup Series the last couple of weeks, so it's hard to say. Will his luck turn around at a track that he won the first race at? It's possible, but I don't know. There's some gremlins or something going on with that 18 car.
His teammate will be strong, though, on Saturday night, because Nick won the race last year, and I think it's just a matter of time before he gets his first win of the season and really starts turning his program around. And definitely competing for the championship at the end of last year really hurt their start to 2014, so I think they're catching up, and I think it's either this week or the next week, or Daytona or New Hampshire. He's going to get that win soon and really break out, and it can happen in Kentucky. I'm not sure. I think he'll be strong, but if he can't be a certain other driver I'm going to pick in a few seconds, I'm not sure he'll be able to get his first one, but he'll definitely be threat throughout the race.
It's pretty interesting that after his miserable performance at Sonoma Raceway, he was involved in a wreck with Dale Earnhardt Jr. As of, I believe, yesterday, he has not heard from his good friend Dale Earnhardt Jr. in regards to the incident. So I wonder what is going on there. But I agree with you. I agree with you so much, Jason, on that. I'm actually going to pick Mr. Matt Kenseth to win this weekend. Break out of that little slump that he's in, get that win, get into the chase, relieve the pressure a little bit from him, because not only does he have the pressure of not having a win or having a DNF the last race, meaning that he really does need a win at this point, but he also has a sponsor that is very well walking at the end of the year with the Home Depot, rumored to be leaving the organization, actually leaving NASCAR in general. So he's got to get out there and not only perform for the points, but now that's an added amount of sponsorship that Joe Gibbs Racing has to come up with, and if Matt Kenseth isn't winning, it might be a little harder of a sell for him to get that additional sponsorship. Plus, you look at the stats, he's finished 6th, 7th, and 1st in the 3 races at the track. You can't do too much better than that. I know a few drivers might have better records, but Matt Kenseth is my pick this weekend.
And our favorite driver on the show over the last month, he's my pick, is Jimmy Johnson. He's just been so good, so dominant, and he won his first career race at Michigan earlier in the month. He's never won Kentucky. There's only been 3 races, so it's been kind of difficult for him to get that win, but I think his time is here, and he's going to knock off another track off the list, which he has not won at, and I think he's just been too strong not to pick him. Like, I keep saying the word strong because that's what he is. He's been dominant and went to the White House today, and he's got some good luck from the president, and he's going to probably have a really good performance on Saturday night.
You're talking Jimmy Johnson, a track he hasn't won at. I'm going to throw this trivia question at you, Jason. There are 2 tracks in which the Ford Motor Company has not won a Sprint Cup Series race. I'll give you one, which is this weekend's race at Kentucky. Granted, there's only been 3 races prior, so it's easier to fathom that they don't have a win, but can you name the one other track where they have not found victory lane?
That's really hard, but I'm just going to throw Watkins Glen out there because I can't think back to any time they won, but I've only been watching for like 10 years.
Yep, they have won at Watkins Glen. I can't think off the top of my head the last driver to do so, but I know Mark Martin won 3 straight races back in the early 90s, and Jeff Bodine added one. It is actually Chicagoland.
Well, that's interesting. That's also the same track Jimmy Johnson has not won at, which is interesting that they line up like that.
Yes, that's how everything kind of ties together. You thought that trivia question was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, it did.
All right, well, that'll do it for this Fan3Cast for this week. We want to hear from you fans. If you got any questions for us, be sure to send it to either of our Twitter accounts or the Fan3Cast Twitter account. And you know what? We got lots of racing action under the lights Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I don't know about you, Jason, but I'm geared up to catch more action in just about 24 hours.
Yes, it should be fun, and we get some midweek racing, which is always really exciting.
Thanks for listening to the Fan3Cast. For more NASCAR coverage, check out StartingParkBlog.com and Turn4RacingNews.com. Follow along on Twitter at Fan3Cast, at StartingParkBlog, and at NASCARJason.